Scholesy Talks Impacts. I'm going live actually on Instagram at the same time, so give me 1 second. Checking connection. Now you are live. Good morning and welcome to an incredibly early Scholesy Talks Impact Wrestling. The reason being is simply this. Great weekend for Impact Wrestling. I've just got off watching the Impact Wrestling on the 29th of June episode. Very, 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 very good episode. Everything you want from a weekly wrestling show. Everything you want from Impact Wrestling. Just very good. We'll talk about that review in a second. But I'm here to review that show today. Also a little bit of wrestling news and stuff like that. And also later on today, I think about 7 o'clock this evening, I'm probably going to do, definitely 100% going to be doing a review show of day one of Impact Wrestling Australia. And tomorrow evening, I will be doing another episode of Scholesy Talks Impact Wrestling Australia Day 2. You've still got time to get it on Fight TV. I think it's about 15 quid, but I'm not going to lie to you. It'll be well worth getting. It'll be well worth watching. It's got a great lineup. It's got loads of absolutely fantastic, talented wrestlers on. And I'm assuming there'll be guest Australian wrestlers there as well. But I'm buzzed. I'm excited. I can't wait for it. Now, first things first, let's get any other business out of the way in that sense. So I want to talk about a few things that I've got this week. I am an Impact Wrestling fan. I am an Impact Wrestling mark, and currently I'm on this big collecting sort of like element of me trying to get annuals, computer games, wrestling rings, wrestling figures, anything to do with Impact Wrestling. All right, and a few grabs that I got this week, which were interestingly extremely cheap. And people might say, oh, well, it's Impact Wrestling, so it's going to be cheap. Well, I can take that banner. If you hate wrestling, Impact Wrestling, that's your issue, not mine. So I grabbed some annuals, man. I got a 2012 annual. We've got Anderson, we've got AJ on there, we've got Pete Williams on there, we've got Mickey James on there. And do you know what? It's really good nick in all fairness. And do you know what I mean? It's got the word search. It's not been touched, so I'm buzzed about that. Bit of Jeff Jarrett there as well. Beautiful man, having a great run currently in AEW, I think. And then we've got the big man Sting. It's a standard annual. The Icon 6'2", 250 pounds, born in Venice Beach, Scorpion Death Drop, Scorpion Death Lock, feuds with Jarrett, Hulk Hogan, Abyss. Crossword as well. So I was proper buzzed about that. I think I got it for about 50 pence. And this one actually says the price in it. It was £1.50 and it dropped down to 50 pence. This is the 2013 annual, which I think a lot of people would start saying at this particular point that Impact was just okay. Not its golden era of 2007 to 2012, or even before that, it's the old school era in 2004ish in that time period. But we've got Bobby Roode there. Personally, he should be back in Impact. He shouldn't be at WWE. We've got a bit of Jeff Hardy there as well. But they were great grabs. I only paid £1 for them, so I think together, and I was proper buzzed about that. What else did I grab? I think, again, it's kind of funny. I am a major Brian Myers fan for some reason. Have been for a long old while. And I grabbed this as well. A Brian Myers Pro Wrestling Tees Authenticated Myers autograph as well. Pretty much nothing. It was a bidding, so I got that for about £5. So do you know what I mean? I've literally this week on wrestling merchandise, I've spent £6. It's probably been the cheapest week that I've ever had. Buying, and it was a couple of annuals, a couple of autographs. But on to wrestling news. So I was listening to Epic Toys podcast this week. It's a great podcast. These lads basically talking everything about toys. It's kind of the British version of the Major Wrestling Figure podcast when it comes down to it. But I think the Epic Boys are far better. They're hilarious. The banter is killer, what they do and how they do it. And I was listening this week, and Rush Toy Collectibles are releasing a Harris and Storm, and you know what I mean, this is Impact, this is all about Impact Wrestling. Harris and Storm, one of the greatest tags, personally, in my viewpoint, of all time. Had some barn burner of matches, and they're getting retro figures. But as soon as that comes up to pre-order, I'm going to 100% be in pre-ordering that because, as you can see, I'm a Cowboy fan. You can see up there, I've got my Impact stuff up there, and James Storm's one of my favourite wrestlers of all time. Everything about him, and it was great to see him actually, interestingly enough, a few weeks back on IPW, a wrestling event in the UK, with tagging with Session Moth, great British wrestler or Irish wrestler. So I'm probably going to jump on them, but I'm in that time period where I'm thinking Rush Toys haven't actually released anything in that element for the figures. So their Wave 1 hasn't come out. It's got Jonah on there, Bronson Reed, as you know, from WWE, and various other guys. So as soon as that comes to pre-order, I'm going to be pre-ordering, but it's like going to be sweaty bum pre-ordering, if you get what I mean, because I'm not sure if anything's ever going to come of it in that element. Just waving to my wife because she's watching me on Insta. You alright, babe? Alright. But yes, as I said, this is the first Twitch, the first Instagram Live of the day. I will be going on later this evening as well to talk about Impact Wrestling, the Australian tour. Me and my son this morning, John, are going to be watching this. It's going to be super exciting before he has to pop off to the hospital. So let's talk about June the 29th. And you know what? If you're going to start a wrestling show, you start big, you start beautiful, you start fantastic, you start artistically, and you start with Chris Sabin and Trey Miguel. And do you know what I mean? These two guys are a legend and the new school. Both of them have a great style of world-class wrestling talent. Trey Miguel is one of these guys, he has a passion for Impact. He could have gone elsewhere at any other point, but it stayed at Impact. And for whatever reason that would be. And you know what? This match was everything I wanted it to be. Alright? It was a match of hard hitting at the start. It was very equal. There was an absolutely fantastic belly to back suplex, and it was just good. It was just bloody good. I mean, there was a moment in the match where Trey misses, I believe it was a moonsault, and how Sabian moved upon that miss. And this is, I think, a veteran thing. To go in big, to go in hard. And Sabian comes in with some insane knee shots, all right, that scared me a little bit. If I didn't know it was all predetermined and these guys are trained, I would be thinking this lad is doing some real shiznick here. And I tell you that for fact, it was uncomfortable to watch. And that is when wrestling is good, when it is uncomfortable to watch. And it's quite a weird one because this was a X Division Championship title bout. It was a match. Whoever won it walked out as the X Division Championship champion. We know Trey Miguel has held this championship twice, the longest ever reigning. Sabian's held it about 9 times, I believe, and one of the most successful guys ever in Impact Wrestling. But the match ended on a DQ. It ended on a DQ, a disqualification. So no one won it, fundamentally. Trey Miguel was disqualified. Because of this interesting thing. So, if you remember Trey when he came in, he was a part of a group called the Rascals. And Zachary is back from the Rascals. It's been 3 years. Zachary had a time period when he went to NXT. I'm not going to go into the controversy why he was released or anything like that, but he was released through some controversy. And he's kind of come back. He's been wrestling in many promotions around North America and the UK. 1PW, I believe he was in. And he has come back to Impact. He has come home to us Impact fans. And we are seeing the Rascals reunite, recreate, and re-beast mode. After this absolutely insane match, Sabian versus Trey, we get some good storytelling as well. And do you know what? For me, I think all that needs to happen now is Marlon Reed needs to come in, and we have our three-way Rascals. Marlon Reed, one of the original members. A great quotation from Zachary, actually, interestingly, in this. He's got his brother's back, and he's coming to smoke everyone, basically. So the Rascals are back, and they look like they're coming back bigger than ever. So that was a major, major exciting moment. That was how you open up a wrestling show. I mean, Zachary, people like Marlon Reed, people like Trey Miguel, they are the sort of like talent where high-flying and hard-hitting Japanese meets British style wrestling is big at the minute. And from a business perspective, it makes sense for Impact to bring Zachary back. It also makes sense for Impact, all right, to push these lads all the way forward to winning tag championships. I mean, for me personally, I thought the Rascals were like a Motor City Machine Gun element. And don't worry about it. Let's just jump back for a second. Yeah, Shirley came in, blah, 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 saved the day. Do you know what I mean? That's how what a babyface world champion does in that element. And yeah, just mate, I was so buzzed about that. I knew it was coming. The rumours have been about anyway. I knew it was coming, and he's featured on Wrestling Revolver in the last couple of weeks. Sammy Hagel's sort of like flipping promotion, and he was on the Impact channel and stuff like that for that reasoning as well. But I want to say, yes, that is how you open up a wrestling show. That's how you do it. And in all fairness, many shows now do that. They will have a main event at the beginning and a kind of main event at the end as well. But yeah, absolutely brilliant wrestling match. I mean, if you're just going to watch Impact when it comes out the highlights, this match is worth the watch in itself because of its aggressive nature, because of these Sabian, Trey, people like Shelley, people like Zachary. They have a similar wrestling style. They have this whole aggressiveness to it, a very, very Japanese strong style, and as I said to you, this very British strong style as well. Now let's move on to the match. That's very, very interesting. And you know what? My missus is watching and she's a major fan of Trinity. So we are pushing on to the Trinity match. Okay, but I want to first say this. This is a very interesting match for Trinity. So Trinity has never, ever wrestled intergender. So intergender is like a touchy subject for some people. Some people that hate it. Some people love it. Some people don't really give a shite about it. And I will tell you a story about intergender. So my wife's first ever match, as she's watching to watch intergender match, was Tessa Blanchard versus Sami Callihan, and it was one of the matches where it because Sami Callihan doesn't give a shit, man. He was throwing round, flipping Tessa like sort of like anything. Yeah, Tessa, the second one, Tessa ended up winning it, blah blah blah. But it's always a concern that people are gonna sort of like feel nervous about this or feel this is some sort of like women beating or anything like that. But it isn't. The best person, somebody explained intergender wrestling recently to me, and I've been a fan of it for years, is it's a different story to tell. It is not the same as single sex wrestling or anything like that. It's a different story to sell. It tends to be the woman overpowering the man. I mean, we know Impact have no issue with that with Matt Cordona, with Jonah Grace and stuff like that. And we know Masha Slamovich, man, in GCW is kicking ass in the intergender world. Absolutely brilliant wrestler. So this is Trinity's first intergender match, and I thought this was actually a very good match, surprisingly. Vidar, I don't really think of it. He's kind of seen as the I think the fashion sort of like advisor to Shaw, and we know Evans, Savannah Evans is the sort of like security guard. So this little team they've got together at the minute, and it's a great little team. It's very enjoyable to watch. They're very funny. They're all very talented. You know, everybody who knows me knows that I'm a massive Shaw fan anyway. Amazing career, amazing wrestler, amazing human being, amazing advocate for life in that sense. And she's actually, interestingly enough, an incredible heel. So I didn't really think much of this match when I looked at it, Trinity versus Vidal. I thought it was going to be one of the matches where Trinity's just going to walk in and whoop some arse, and it wasn't that simple. And this is what's special about Impact Wrestling. I'm here to promote Impact Wrestling, just to let you all know. And anything I see about Impact that's fairly decent, I'm going to be saying that. Impact Wrestling, when Trinity made her debut, it was a hard match. She had King, man. King is a hard wrestler. Gylan King, man. And this match, again, was not easy for Trinity. So Vidal comes in, does the typical chicken shit hill sort of thing, move that sort of like gets in, jukes up, rolls out, sort of like. And then basically Trinity's like, oh, what's happening? What's happening? And then what happens is Vidal runs around, starts beating her, man. Beating her up. Okay? Alright? And even got to the point where we're seeing things like Vidal and Evans helping Vidal. We even see Vidal get a pin, which was a crazy, surprising moment. And Trinity sort of like pushes this match really, really, really hard. All right, and we see many mistakes being made by Vidal. All right, but he was brilliant. He's actually a super talented wrestler. And just on the major side notes, this whole entire match, Deonna Purrazzo is commentating. Deonna Purrazzo is commentating, and she's the Versiosa. She's the person, man. She's the knockout champion, and she's watching this to scout fundamentally Shaw for Australia this weekend, and Trinity for Slammiversary. And we see the match kind of rounded up after quite a hard-hitting, aggressive match. We see some elements of cheating going on with Savannah Evans and stuff like that, with a Starstruck by Trinity, and Vidal taps. What was more interesting afterwards was everybody jumped in, kick, punch, but here's the psychology to it. The psychology was the best bit of this whole entire match, was Purrazzo took her time, stood up, walked around the ring, was watching Shaw, was watching Trinity, was working things out in her noodle, and then she jumps in. And it was a kind of a twofold thing here. I think a part of it was, look, man, I want Trinity to be weak when I eventually face her. First point. The second point is that I'm facing Shaw over the weekend, so I get in there, I get a few slaps in. Let's hope she burns her energy out. And that was an incredible match. It was incredible storytelling. This is one of the things you'll get to know with Adam Scholes, or Scholesy, or whatever you want to call me, is I'm here for the storytelling, man. I'm here 150% for the storytelling. And we saw the psychology, we saw the storytelling, and it was really, really A-class. A-class. Sometimes you don't have to fight with your fists, you have to fight with your brain, and that's what wrestling gives us. It gives us the drama. It gives us the theatre. And it gives us the psychology in that element. And that was brilliant by Deonna Purrazzo. Great win for Trinity, man. That submission is quality. Vidal, for me, is a good wrestler, man. He's got the stuff. He's not just a dramatic drama queen. He's a great, fantastic wrestler. All right? And we'll probably be talking more about Shaw over the weekend or tonight. Perspective, I'm thinking about it, or maybe tomorrow. I'm not sure what days it's going to happen. I'm just kind of rolling in there, man. In that sense. So we move on to the segments, as sort of like the promotional elements and the element for the future. And you know what? I talked about it last week. I'm still so buzzed that Moose is staying on board with Impact, that he signed a multi-contract, a big contract, a fantastically gorgeous contract to keep him here for a long while. And we know also that Myers a little while ago signed a new contract as well. So Myers and Moose coming together for me is class. I'm going to be honest with you, Myers fan, Myers autographs out there, Myers fan, just love him. I think he's a highly underrated wrestler. He was highly underrated in WWE, in the sense of that for me he had potential to be a top guy, always had the potential to be a top guy. I love Matt Cardona as well, but I think he's better as a ring mat wrestler than Matt Cardona, and I love a bit of both. But he had a short time period in Impact before, and it was all right. He was the tag champion with Cameron Grimes, and it was all right. So he has got Impact pedigree in that element. And in this segment, Moose basically goes in there and says, look, dude, all right, all I want from you is dump the good hands. Dana Hodgson sort of like Skylar, man, get rid of him, and it's me and you. It's me and you. And it kind of sort of like ended where I'm assuming that Myers and the Good Hands are parting ways, which is a kind of shame because I was enjoying it. And the Good Hands have had a bit of a rough time, man, fundamentally, because the Good Hands have not had the opportunity to work to the greatest element they could have. They were Bully dumped him. Myers is dumped him, but I don't blame him because working with Moose to get a tag championship opportunity is probably the case. But yeah, so class little segment, storytelling. That's what Impact's about. I think Trinity said it a little while ago. Impact has the best ability to do storytelling, and it's fact. If you're a wrestling fan, all right, TNA Impact for me is the best place to be because of the storytelling. And then we move into another segment. There was a BTI match where Swinger won his first match with Ziggy Dice as the referee. As we interestingly saw last week, they were talking about it. Ziggy's got his referee's license, man. He's got his referee's license. Shock horror, he's a referee. And he's doing it just to make his mentor, his boss, his gather happy to get him them 50 wins so he can get a championship opportunity. Now, Swinger wins it, obviously, because it's a kind of cheat. So they're all buzzing backstage, thinking, yeah, I've got this match. Yes, mate, I've got this match. In their sort of like 80s sort of like way of doing it. And the referee comes out and basically says, look, man, you cheated. Match don't count. Boom. And then the head referee goes to Ziggy, look, if you continue how you're continuing, boss, you're going to lose your ref's license. And that was a class little segment. Absolutely brilliant segment. It's them little joining elements that make Impact important. It reminds me of the concepts of WCW and and WWE when they used to do that. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And look, man, it excites me generally. And this next match we'll go through quite quickly excited me as well. All right. So, I want to talk about Lio Rush, man. Lio Rush is in Impact Wrestling. And the funny and crazy thing about Lio Rush, he's been bloody everywhere. New Japan Pro Wrestling, WWE, he had, a week or two stint in AEW where we assumed that he will sign a contract. Major League Wrestling. This guy is legit. And we've recently seen him in a crossover with Impact in the Multiverse event. He's an amazing talent. There is no debate. He's an amazing talent. Absolutely incredible. Let's just hope he doesn't retire again and send out some random tweet, because I would love to see Lio Rush stay in Impact Wrestling permanently. All right? Fight for that X Division champion, which we'll talk about that later on. But he's facing a guy called Jack Price. Jack Price has got some testicles on him. He walks to the centre of the ring. He's sort of goading Lio. Leo's stretching. Leo's like, this is going to be an absolute joke of a bloody match. Leo's got his leg on the top rope, stretching his groin out. So this is a really fun match where it's... Best way to explain it is power versus speed. Power versus speed. We are seeing the speed of Lio Rush. And look, man, he is one of the bloody fastest gits in the wrestling industry. But this Jack Price, which I'm not going to lie, I don't know much about the guy, and I'll do some research on him, and I'll refer to him at some other point, hopefully. But he is some strong bastard. He is some strong git. And we see that. We see moments where Lio looks like he's going to struggle for about 2.5 seconds. But one of the best moments of the whole match is there was some sort of weird cartwheel sort of kick that pushed off Price off the ropes. And at this point, Lio was in so much control. It was... Yeah. there was nothing to it. I mean, in the sense of Leo does an amazing kick into a splash. Leo wins the match, but there's storytelling to this match. We needed to see Leo. We need to see he was back at wrestling, because he actually comes in the last bit of the whole entire night. He is in there again. We'll move into 2 segments. There's another really good segment actually. Santana Man and Dango. Love these two, mate. Absolutely love these two. Dirty Dango, Fandango, the dancing guy from flipping WWE. That's the only way I knew who he was. And Santana is the funny guy from WWE with the sock in his hand, and that's how I know him. I'm not gonna be horrible to it, but they're hilarious. They are so funny working together. I mean, this feud they've got is actually surprisingly one of the highlights each week of what I want to watch in Impact. And do you know what? I'm so dying to see this match they're eventually going to have. And Dango goes deep and dark and nasty to Santana in the sense of he talks about how Jim Cornette slapped him up or something along the lines of that, and he was basically given a full-time WWE contract because WWE was scared of suing them, and I thought it was really super funny actually. And then he goes deep and dark in it because we all know Santana's daughter's in sort of like in WWE developmental. And he basically says a statement of your daughter's probably going to get slapped about in there, and it's so funny. Dango is so funny. It's the way he does this. And do you know what, Dirty Dango? All right, he is a far better talent away from WWE because he's taken as a serious commodity, and he has a really good wrestling attitude, I think. And he's actually very good in the ring. I mean, and it's really funny because he was the dancing guy in WWE fundamentally when it came down to it. But yeah, Santana comes back with some stuff. He says basically, you must be out of your freaking mind. Talking about his daughter, he was pissed off about. Talking about his career, he was pissed off with Dango about. And this is the great thing about this whole entire thing. It was just funny. It was just so funny. It was, and I think I'm so looking forward to this match when it eventually happens. Okay, because these are two talents that are very good on the entertainment side of wrestling, but very talented wrestlers at the same time. They can do both, but they were more seen in the industry because they were amusing than anything else. And we'll move into our next segment because it was basically moving into Eddie Edwards and Frankie, man. And this is a good one. I can see potential here. We know Killer Kosky, both of them trained. There's that little storyline here. Basically, no one can beat the crap out. No one else can beat the crap out of these two. They can only beat the crap out of each other. It's that kind of logic to it. And last week we saw Eddie Edwards make a mistake. We saw very funny lines about tag wrestling and how Edwards goes, I'm not a tag specialist, blah blah, and all this sort of stuff. And yeah, it's got potential to go somewhere. It's the start of somewhere, start of something that goes big and goes wild, and it's going to be very good. But this is the match I was excited for in this whole show. So you know that I do a wrestling show called Don't Call Me a Diva podcast, and we talk about many things, but me and Josh talk about a hell of a lot Masha Slamovich. And a few weeks back, I said to when Masha Slamovich and Killer Kelly were sort of like having some beef, I said on one of the podcasts we did, I said, look, I can see potential long-termly that Masha and Killer join together and become some sort of like crazy tag team and take over the tag division of Impact. And it looks like it's going to happen. So we saw the developments of that happening last week. This match is a development of last week's match. And I personally think Kylan King is one of the best wrestlers at Impact. Hard-hitting, beast mode. Impact did the right thing, teaming her with Taylor Wilde, absolute legend, ring general, locker room leader, sort of like legendary wrestler. She was the first ever Knockouts tag team champion as well. So it's a great tag team. They're a great championships. I believe they've done about 105, 106 days. I'm guessing there. It's got to be about that time period. But the match they come in, and you know what? You expect Masha to come in and get just slaughter her to a certain aspect, but it isn't. Kylon King is legit. We saw Trinity struggle against Kylon King, and Masha comes in and King comes in hitting hard, hitting beast mode. It's very, very crazy. It's very, very wild, but it is hit, punch, punch, sort of for the first couple of minutes. King and Slammer Masha are absolutely crazy talented athletes in a lot of ways. King takes control of this match. There's a moment in there where you see King talking to the referee, and she didn't really need to do this. It's a bit of a criticism to this bit. And then we see Taylor Wilde choking Masha on the bottom rope, but that didn't need to happen. All right, I'm just going to say this. I'm picking this match apart because these two are so good. That didn't need to happen. All we needed in that match was a hard-hitting, powerful match. We didn't need any chicken shit heel sort of like cheating or anything like that by Taylor. But it did happen, and it did help the storyline because this is what it's about. We see this absolutely crazy reverse suplex in that match, which basically put them both down. Both of them beat the 10 count. We saw Slamovich take control again. We saw this amazing heel kick, which was a beautiful piece of art. And then we sort of like the match is moving on at this point. And Masha went in for this crazy Death Valley driver. Slamovich kicks out. King went in for the Death Valley driver. Slamovich kicks out easy. We see Slamovich take control again, and Killer Kelly in sort of wild again cheating, but it was a good match. It was a snowplow that finished the match. Slamovich won it. And what happened? Of course, the end of it, the Coven get involved, blah, blah, blah. We see running out... sorry, I totally missed something there because my brain was going. My brain was totally going. I was reading notes and I shouldn't have read the notes there because I've missed out a proper important bit. So Killer Kelly comes in quite a bit earlier in this match before it ends with Snowplow and Masha Slamovich. And Killer Kelly comes in and chokes out Wild with a flipping dog collar chain. And there's a lot of logic to this because Masha, Killer... They had a dog collar match. At the end of the match, after Masha wins this match, interestingly enough, and I kind of love this, Killer and Masha join each other with a dog collar chain. And it's got a good bit of storytelling for you. Sorry for the mistake there, but it's sort of like it's got some good, powerful storytelling for you in that sense. Now we move into this really good segment. Well, I super enjoyed this. It kind of fits some gaps and it helps. It helps in a lot of ways as well. Sorry, it's my notes. Helps in a lot of ways. So Scott D'Amore, man, we know he's coming back. Slammiversary, he's going to be having a match, which I'm super looking forward to. In all, interestingly enough, and this segment is pretty much a babyface history lesson of Scott D'Amore, basically training people like Young, Robert Roode, Rhino, Motor City Machine Guns, Frankie Kazarian and Kushida both say how amazing he is, an incredible guy. Everybody's loving him because he was legit. He should have got a lot bigger than he did. He was wrestling side to side with people like Sabu and So back in the day. And it was a proper sort of like head up the arse licky sort of like arse licky sort of like thing to Scott D'Amore. But it the point of it was being, okay, was to build him up as a big, beastie babyface. Now, Scott D'Amore cuts into an interview, and the interview's with Gia, and we love Gia, man. She's a legend. And he basically says that line that he said last week, I'm not wearing a suit, headphones are taken off, I'm here to wrestle, okay? And he makes a funny joke about he's wearing his dojo's t-shirt, and Santana. He said Santana's the boss now. He's probably gonna give me some hefty fine for this. And then the Good Hands walk out, and it is a setup for the Good Hands to fight PCO next week in a 3-on-1. Great little segment, storytelling worthwhile doing. I love PCO, man. Absolute legit legend. And we know that he is the monster, the security guard, basically, of Scott D'Amore. And we know the links, Canadians. Do you know what I'm saying? So that was another great little segment. But this is I was saying about the King Masher being the one that I was anticipating and looking forward to because of two passionate women wrestlers, and it was a beast mode match. But interestingly enough, it was the last match of the night that was the best. And it wasn't because of the match, and that's really, really bad how I say this. So, Yaya versus Kenny King, and it starts off cutting into after they've come out and their walkouts. It cuts into Joe Hendry. I believe in Joe Hendry. We do believe here. In the Skulls house, we believe in Joe Hendry. All right, legend, British legend, future legend. Digital Media Championship, goes up to Josh Matthews and he says, look, do you remember that segment, that music, that video audio clip that I put together for you? Okay, remember to put it in. So this match starts off, remember this at the beginning, so this match starts off with a collar and tie, start with a lot of wrist locks. Yaya, man, I love this kid. I love this kid. He is so hard hitting. He is so beast mode. He had control of Kenny King through this whole entire match. And it was so good. And there was great moments by King. King's really, really good. So in the sense of he walked round the referee and gave Yaya sort of like a cheap shot. We saw an absolutely fantastic move. Yaya gets the bulldog. King goes into suplexing, and then sort of Yaya turns it into some sort of like crazy DDT, sort of like whatever. I don't even know what it was. It was good though. And they are brawling out the match. And don't get me wrong, it finishes the way I didn't want it to finish. So Yaya misses the crossbody. King basically lines up for a missile kick. Yaya goes for a major kick, and then basically it's a royal flush. King gets the win. But I'll tell you the best bit of the match. The best bit of the match was the finishing element. So I'm just seeing if I can find it. Yeah, it was the finishing element. Joe Hendry. He is the king of trolling. Right, in the wrestling world, in my opinion, nowadays. He is the king of trolling, and he trolled King like a beast. So, have you ever seen the sort of like little songs that he did? He did a really funny one about Matt Cardona, where he's taking the piss out of him being an action figure guy. Oh, I'm an action figure guy as well. And taking the piss out of him, basically, it's a great line in it with sort of like Chelsea Green taking the mic, saying, come to bed. And Matt's more interested in playing with his toys. He did a great song about Moose. But this Kenny King one was absolutely hilarious. So, King recently did a sort of like an interview with Renee Young. I'm just going to call her Renee Young because I can never say her second name properly. Renee Young, and basically talks about he spent a year or something along the lines being a stripper. And and it's sort of like there's this great timeline in this where it says 07 to 2012 you were doing great things, 2013 you were a stripper, you disappeared off the face of the planet and you came back to wrestling. And Joe Henry's got this ability to make everybody believe, and this is the point, he's like a cult sort of personality, sort of like pop star, and he made everybody believe in the crowd, and they were all going King is a stripper or something along the lines of that. Great moment, great bit of storytelling, absolutely incredible. And Yaya, man, I want to say this lad is going to be big. I mean, not just like big now. I mean, he's going to be big if he's used correctly. He's a guy that I would put the X Division Championship around within a year. Worth the look, worth the watch, or even the Digital Media Championship. Worth the watch, worth the look. Quality quality match. Absolutely quality match. But we are going to move on to Nick Aldis talks. So Nick Aldis goes against Shelley, goes against Sabian after a tag match, basically hits him with the title. Last week we see that Jacobs does a segment and basically says, this is what Nick Aldis says. He feels harassed by the people on social media and in the crowds, blah blah blah, because of the decisions he's made. We see Shelley come in, get pissed off with Jacobs, boom in the noodle. Alright, Jimmy Jacobs is down. And basically, Nick Aldis comes out and he sort of like said, listen to me, all right, blah, 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 blah. He says, and Shelley comes out at this point, calls Shelley out and says, look, I'm going to talk to you face to face, but you're not going to talk to me right here. You're going to sit in the crowd. And Aldis, within this segment, he talks about how this place is an unprofessional workplace to work in. He talks about how Shelley is a man of the people. He talks about his propaganda. And it's quite an interesting thing. He talks about Shelley's propaganda, being the man of the people, blah, blah, blah. But what's interesting about this, in all fairness, is how Aldis put this across. So, if you are an NWA fan, you'll know how Aldis comes across. If you are a Impact fan, you'll know how Aldis comes across. He comes across very regal, very entitled, very rich, snobby in that sort of concept. And we saw that Aldis back, but 10 times worse. We saw Aldis like that, but from the woke concept. And I thought this was cheeky. I thought this was nice. I thought this was very nice, because in the UK currently, over the years, we've had major political concepts where men of the people are the socialists, and the sort of like the big bad Bond villains tend to be the conservatives. And that's how this promo was done. And I fucking loved it. Every second of it. I was sitting there in bloody awe how good this promo was. And do you know what? I'm going to give you... So I've given you a political thing, but I'm going to go for a bit of pop culture here as well. I kind of saw this very much like Prince Charming from Shrek. With a weird twist of politics to it. And yeah, it kind of had a Shrek storyline. Okay, why is the frog? Why is the ogre getting the love? All right, and the beautiful, muscular man is not getting nothing, and that's why that was good. That's why that was good. And after the promo, of course, it's wrestling. It always happens because you have to have some sort of violence included. There was a little brawl. We saw Leo Rush come out. Like, what the fuck was Leo Rush there? I mean, it made more sense Joe Henry coming out because of being British and stuff like that. But Leo Rush comes out, and I suppose this is going to be pushing a Slammiversary match, fundamentally, for the X Division title. And yes, it was a top-class episode of Impact Wrestling. Again. Now I'm going to go back on my rant about this. I have consistently watched Impact Wrestling, whatever, Twitch, flipping Challenge TV, Spike TV, flipping anywhere I could watch it, YouTube, Impact Plus for years and years and years. Okay? Alright? And with Impact, it went through dark times. Okay? But it had golden times and OG times. And now it's getting out of their dark times and it's becoming absolutely incredible again. So we've got like Leo Rush on the roster, it looks like. We've got people like Nick Aldis on the roster. And we've got Shelley, we've got Sabian, we've got... Who else? We've got flipping now. We've got Kenny King. Kenny King's a great wrestler. We've got Joe Hendry, man. We've got Brian Myers. We've got Moose, man. And I'm not even kicking into the impacts yet. The knockouts yet. We've got Trinity, man. We've got Diana. We've got Shaw. Do you know what I'm saying? We've got Steels. This product gives everybody a storyline. This product gives everybody an opportunity. So people, please, man, I'm not going on about this again. Get watching Impact bloody Wrestling. It is worth it. I promise you. I promise you. But listen to me, guys. All right, I've actually got to go and do the school run now. I've just noticed it's 10 to 8. And I wanted to crack this one on because this evening I will be back. I will be back talking about day 1 of Impact Goes to Australia. Thank you very much, guys.